last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Jeff, my guy, welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show.
How you doing, Al?
Man, I'm excited to see you because I know every time I see you, it's going to be a great conversation for anybody that is either just starting or maybe hasn't seen things like '08. What's some of the best advice you'd give them if there's like a down market that's on the way?
Don't focus on narratives. Everybody has the narrative. It's a boom, it's a crash. Statistically and data-wise, I focus on the rate of change. There's a point of which, like in 2007, that the market was in such a free fall here that it wasn't flippable. You could not buy something because 6 months later, it was probably worth 20-25% less. There is always a bubble of money in every market. Every market has a bubble of money. Somewhere is growing. Find it, get in it, work it. That's how you're going to not only survive, you're going to succeed.
How do you navigate through some of those markets where it's like the buyers aren't really buying in that area because of just of demand?
You know, the key to that scenario is you got to first have the money and second, don't spend the money. You figure out where the pain points are and either avoid them or buy them so well that it doesn't matter what happens. There's a buyer for every property at the right price.
It's a matter of the price. You know, what are you going to buy it at? So it still makes a lot of sense to get in that kind of deal. What are your thoughts on partnerships?
One thing we preach at the RIA, you have 4 basic tools. You got your time, you've got your knowledge, you've got capital, and you got credit. Okay, those 4 things. And if you don't have one of those 4, go find somebody that's got it and work it out. But if all you're bringing is credit and I'm doing everything else, then maybe it's not a 50-50. This isn't going to work long term. Somebody's going to get dissatisfied. And it's really easy when everybody beats a bongo drum and sings Kumbaya when you're making money. But, you know, when you get served with papers for a lawsuit, then you find out who's really on the team or not.
Jeff, thank you so much. Check them out. Check out the Southwest Florida RIA. And Jeff, I will be seeing you soon, my friend.
Looking forward to it.
And we're live. It's another Wednesday in the Al Nicoletti studio. If you missed any of that episode, check it out. Go back. Lots of hidden gems in these episodes all the time. The guests are always bringing the heat and the value and pouring back into you all out there. And if you want to find more episodes like last week and more like that are going to be on today, scan the QR code at the top of the screen. You'll get everything from our link tree, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere you can find the Al Nicoletti Show on all the platforms. And of course, all the content on probates, quiet titles, all the messy things in this world. Who doesn't want to learn about probates? Because that is a hot topic right now. And going into the next 10, 20, 30 years, it's going to be hotter than ever. So I am super excited for this episode today. I can't wait to bring on Brad and introduce Brad Bone to everybody. And I got to say, when it comes to the show, we love the interaction. Interact, drop comments, ask questions. This is what it's all about on the show, giving back to you all. And we're in for a banger tonight. So I got my pen and paper and I'm ready. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida. And welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate and bring in the best in the game. No matter what market they're in, no matter what niche they're in, anybody in the real estate market, real estate adjacent, Airbnb, land, wholesaling, flipping, you name it, on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show today, I got Brad Bone from PrimeBuyers. Brad is killing it in the game of real estate in one market that he loves going into, Jacksonville. And he is virtual, which is a really interesting concept for a lot of people that are trying to do deals. And I'm always amazed when I hear what Brad's doing in the real estate space, whether it's investing, getting into all these other vendor services. And I got to say, when we can bring on a guest like Brad who can pour back into the community, it's awesome. So I'm excited to talk to Brad tonight. And without further ado, let's welcome him to the show. Brad Bone, there he is. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Al?
I'm good. I'm ready for you. This is going to be exciting. I'm so happy we got to really officially connect and meet at the Family Mastermind. Shout out Matt Andrews for this connection. And Brad, you're doing big things in this real estate space. You're seeing a lot of things going on in the market. For those that don't know you, Brad, we'd love to hear your story. How did you get started in this, and like where did you get to today?
Yeah, so I started in 2015. It was actually 2014. I was buying at the courthouse steps in Bakersfield. Grew up in Bakersfield, California, and then I have a twin brother, Justin. Him and I partnered we started kind of working together kind of the beginning of 2015 and picked up a wholesale deal. We bought a couple deals off the courthouse steps. And then I remember it was like somewhere in April or so of 2015, we're under contract to buy what was going to be a fix and flip. And I was like, if we buy this thing, I'm going to quit my job. And we did. And I quit my job probably way too early, but we did. And we actually formed our entity in July of 2015. So it's been almost 10 years now that we've had our entity. Worked in Bakersfield for the first few years, and then started marketing in Jacksonville. And slowly Jacksonville became more and more a comfortable market to us. And now we're exclusively there.
Yeah, and that was a great question and an answer that you gave offset, which is what makes you focus only in one market? What makes a Jacksonville so attractive to just go there as opposed to different markets?
Yeah, this is maybe something that only California investors can relate to, but when you grow up as a California investor, you're trying to figure out how to get out of state. And we were thinking about that even from the beginning, because ultimately we want to build a rental portfolio, and it's better to do that out of state than in state. So we were looking at properties out of state. We'd actually bought a few flips that we did one in Louisiana. We did one in South Carolina, just way early on. And eventually we settled on Jacksonville, started doing some marketing. And over time, it becomes more efficient to just focus on one market. Our team knows one market. You start to know people in one market. And that became the market that wasn't our home market, which is really interesting. But it slowly became that way. And all of a sudden I'm like, I like getting deals better in Florida than California. But that takes time.
Oh, I'm sure. And the fact that you're doing it in this market, but you're all the way out there, you got to be able to put the right teams in place on the ground or just, virtually to make this thing run. And so I know one of the big topics that we were going to get into tonight is the fact of what it takes to run a 7-figure real estate business remotely, right? What systems do you have to have in place? How do you find the people? Where are the people located for this, and what the strategic focus is. So I really want to understand how you've been able to implement these systems in a virtual sense so that you can make this thing run like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it's, I think really real estate investing and probably any business, you're in the business of team building more than anything. And you're in the business of building a machine that I've sometimes thought about it like we're building this machine in the garage, and it's supposed to be a money machine. And it's like you put dollars in and it should kick out money, and it should kick out a certain return. And we're doing this, and we're spending nights and weekends and slaving over this thing. And sometimes it blows up and kills a few people, but ultimately we know we have something, and you just keep working it and working it until you get there. And that's kind of how it's felt. It's like you're trying to recruit good people, but you have a hard time doing that if you don't have a big enough business yet. So it's like one step at a time. Recruit someone good, start getting some success, build on that. But it's been a long process, and it definitely takes time.
Yeah, and when it comes to building out that team, you got to have your cold callers, your acquisition specialists, your disposition, your lead managers. What's been some of the secret sauce to finding the right people for the right spots for these roles? Because it's hard to find people that are that right fit for you in your approach that Brad wants, right? How are you finding these people? What's the secret sauce?
Yeah. Well, I think that the answer to that is they're everywhere. First of all, great people are anywhere. A lot of times they're referrals from other great people, but what we started to figure out when we started to really build a great team, even in the past few years, is it's like build a great culture that attracts those people and makes them want to stay. And then, we have some virtual assistants that we've hired through Upwork and through other VA services. So you have all ranges of people there. You have great people and you have not so great people. But the important part is have core values and culture that attracts those people and trains and coaches. And it's not like there's one secret spot where you find a great person. It really starts with what kind of company are you and who are you attracting?
Yeah.
So that has been a learning process, but you see how it is very, very necessary.
Yeah, and I take it that PrimeBuyers has really built out what the culture looks like, right? And so finding people that align with the culture points is very important. And it may take some sifting to get through, but eventually you find that fit of people that believe in your message, believe in what you believe, and that's really important. And Brad, when it comes to being able to manage your team and manage leads, I know that tracking your KPIs and tracking your data and tracking where leads are coming from and knowing where to spend your time is important. How do you factor all of these things into running your business?
Yeah, that's super important as well. So we have what we call a dams in the river meeting every Monday. So we think of the process from marketing money spent to revenue in as like a river. So it starts with you're spending a certain amount of money, and then there's conversions all the way downstream. So there's a conversion from money spent to how many leads does that generate? Those are gross leads. How many of those turn into net leads? How many turns into appointment set? How many turns into contract signed? How many of those get sold? And then what is the money that comes in of those sold contracts? So there's conversions we're watching on each of those. And we look at that every Monday. Every Monday morning, we're looking at that. We're actually looking at that Wednesday as well. Like, how are we doing this week? And what lever do we need to pull to win the week? So that's our whole team understands that. Our whole team knows what that all means. We think of ourselves as like we're spread out along this river, and our job is to keep the water flowing. And sometimes we're up to our knees in mud in the middle of the night trying to make our little section of river flow. But that's how we think of it.
And I love those team meetings, right? Because some of those team meetings it's about being able to learn what you did right and also what you did wrong, and then how to approach that on the next deal that you pick up. Because sometimes the deals are just the money's not there. I mean, you may have the seller on, but just the way that you're maneuvering, it's not conventional. You can't do a seller finance. You can't do anything creative. So when you've run out of those options, you can't do the deal because it doesn't make sense. Then you learn from that for the next one, right? So then you're now you're not wasting time. If that same or similar deal comes forward, you guys know what to do as a team next time. So
Right.
I'm sure definitely tracking that is important. And I know one thing that can be something to think about are the mistakes you make when you're doing them, right? Or getting into deals. What have you noticed that you've learned of the mistakes that you've made on deal analysis or getting into deals, and what would you do differently?
Yeah, that's a great question, Al, because I think a lot of us made some mistakes, especially a couple of years ago when the market was hot, and we all knew the market was hot. We knew there was a risk there, but you're trying to make deals work. I think one thing I learned from that, it was a really good experience. We got squeezed a little bit, like a lot of people did. But one thing I learned is when you're light on lead flow, it's easy to become risky. And so you got to like be aware of that. Because it's easy you're tempted to become risky just to get more deal flow. So we made some mistakes with that. We're just like, we just got to make a deal work somehow. You start to become a little bit more risky. I think the other thing is there's over time as you grow as a business owner, there's sometimes a tendency to want to make a deal happen for someone else rather than is it really right for our business? And I think that I would fall into that temptation sometimes where an acquisition guy's excited about it. And I'm just like, well, there's something in my gut doesn't love this thing, but let's just do it because I don't want him to be disappointed. And ultimately it serves everyone if we have just great standards on what is a deal and what isn't. So that takes time to develop, but and it actually you learn that from getting punched in the face a few times. And so maybe that's the only way you really learn it.
Yeah, great point that you made, because I know of some investors that they've gone back to look at what is a deal and what is not a deal and doing that analysis so that you're sifting through these things faster. Instead of spending hours upon hours getting into these deals with super tight margins and only to find out now it's going to need a short sale. Now it's upside down. Now the seller doesn't want to deal with anything anymore, right? So doing that deal analysis is very important to determine what is a deal. Another thing, Brad, that you love getting into are the hidden levers in a real estate business model. Most investors don't see. So talk to us about the concept of business error codes. What is that?
Yeah. So one thing we noticed is there's times when, for example, let's say you have gross leads coming in. Those get qualified this is how we think about it. Gross leads get qualified into net leads. Net lead just means it's someone who's actually interested in selling, and then that gets qualified for an appointment set. And we noticed that our conversion rate on our acquisitions side was high. So we try to be above 20% in converting an appointment into a signed contract. That's our metric. We want to be 20% or better. Well, we were noticing that our conversion rates were like really high, 30% or so. And first glance, you're like, well, that's awesome. We must be really good at this business. Well, you start thinking about it and you're like, well, yeah, it's high, but also we noticed that our conversion between gross and net leads was low. So we should be getting more net leads. We should actually be getting more appointments set. So you realize we're actually overqualifying. That's our problem. So we're losing money because we're overqualifying leads, underqualifying leads. We're not pushing as many appointments out there. That means we're giving our acquisition guys the cream. They're closing at a high rate. We're not doing as many deals as we should. So you start noticing some of these conversions, and a lot of times they'll tell a story that's different than what you actually think it is. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because you need to be able to identify what deals are going to be worth it, right?
Yeah.
And you don't, I mean, I'll say this, if you do an analysis, you really want to qualify out the lead, but then like you said, sometimes you can be underqualifying it. You got to be careful, right? Over qualifying it, that could be a good thing too, right? Then you're really making sure that there's been due diligence involved in the deal.
Yeah, I would say it's better to underqualify the appointment set. Let's go on more appointments, even if they're less quality, and give ourselves a shot. And so I think most real estate investors make the mistake of overqualifying appointments. So they kick out what could be just an appointment. Let's go on the appointment and give our guy a shot. Give our acquisition guy a shot. Let him do what he does best, which is be a sales guy. And so what ends up happening is we're not closing as many deals as we could. So, yeah.
Great analysis. And it's a great perspective on it. And if you're seeing that out there, that could be the golden gem for a lot of people that are trying to pick up more deals, right? Listen to Brad, who's doing this every single day in this Jacksonville market. And I love how you talk about the concept of business error codes. And also, Brad, like, how do you fix issues upstream instead of just reacting to poor outcomes? I know that's another topic you definitely dive
into. We look at it. So I think this concept of the river makes a lot of sense in terms of, let's say our conversion rate on acquisition appointments is a little bit lower than we want it to be. It may not be our acquisition guys they're failing, and you got to go in and do some analysis on that to figure it out. But it could be our lead source isn't very good. So it could be a marketing problem showing up as an acquisition problem, but it's really a marketing problem. So a lot of times you see a problem, you want to analyze it from that particular department, but also look upstream and see if there's issues happening upstream that's causing that. So we have a marketing girl who's like almost takes all the blame on everything. Like, hey, it's not your fault every time, but she definitely owns that concept of like, I got to make sure great marketing's coming out so we get great leads, and that starts the process.
And what do you find are some of your favorite marketing strategies that you use when it comes to getting these deals, right? Whether it's TV, direct mail, cold call, what do you find has been the most effective that you get into, at least in a niche market?
Yeah, for us, TV's done really well. We work with a great TV provider, and then pay per click as well. So just Google pay per click has done. Those are our main two marketing channels. We focus only on inbound leads. We don't do any outbound. I know outbound was really popular a few years ago. We did do some of that, but inbound is definitely more higher quality leads, more expensive, but higher quality. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably, yeah. I can see that being the case. I know there's a lot of people that love doing direct mail, cold call.
Mhm.
But then I've heard a lot of people say how TV just really hits differently, right? By getting out there and doing all that. It's a really different marketing strategy. And Brad, as we keep going on into this generation of AI, I know there's a lot of people that are using AI to leverage their real estate business and succeed even more, or use it for their coaching programs, use it for their operations. What does it actually look like on a ground level with AI in your real estate business? Like how are you guys using that to get more deals or to be more efficient in your process?
Yeah, it's a I started thinking about this a few years ago, but when AI became popular, when ChatGPT first came out, but for the real estate investing industry specifically, I think using AI and follow up is probably the biggest lever we can use it for. And so that's what we started doing. We started using it on follow up, and it's not trying to it's not using AI to close deals or replace acquisitions or anything like that. Even if AI could do that, I don't think we would want it to do that, because that would be, think about the inauthentic businesses we'd be running if we had a machine talking to grandma about selling her house. That wouldn't work. But what we can use it for is engaging prospects and getting them on an appointment. Like there's a huge opportunity for that, and we've been using it for that very successfully.
Oh, I'm sure it cuts out so much time for having somebody to do that rather than just having the computer systems do it.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, your best recommendation for investors or real estate professionals with AI is the use of follow-up game or case management, or being able to just track everything happening all at once. That's where it's at, right?
Yeah, it's you know, as you have a bunch of leads and you have a big database, we all know that we need to follow up. And often we do that manually, or we have automated follow up happening. The problem with automated follow up is someone responds, you still have to have a human being respond to that text or phone call. And often our team is focused on the new leads and they don't get to that till tomorrow. With AI running on your database, when someone responds, AI is within seconds setting an appointment. So yeah, if we can have AI work the database and get people to raise their hand and then stack our appointment with appointments, it just means our team spends a lot more time talking to people that actually want to sell rather than spending all their time trying to prospect.
Yeah, absolutely. It saves the
Yeah.
time. What do
Yeah.
you find is the power of pre-trained AI versus hiring a VA or SDR?
I think there's still a place for a VA or follow-up specialist. We still need those people because we have to ultimately talk to sellers. But the power of AI is just that, it's going to work whenever you want it to work. It's not going to miss a call or a text or a task. It's going to do what you tell it to do. And so really we just use it for the heavy lifting of follow-up. And like let's not replace our lead management team, but let's let our lead management team become a lot more efficient. That's how I think about it. Just let it do the heavy lifting, and then let us do what humans do best, which is talk to people that actually want to talk to us.
Yeah, that's the best part. And what do you find are the what's the cost basis when getting into the use of AI for automating your real estate business? Is it pretty reasonable, or is it more on the expensive side?
Yeah, I mean, it's roughly the cost of a virtual assistant. So it's if you can afford a virtual assistant, then it might make sense to start AI. Yeah,
Wow.
and honestly, you could probably because you might be able to get rid of a few follow-up specialists that you all of a sudden don't need anymore because of this. Yeah.
Interesting. And I know you were talking about before, like getting into the use of AI for sales conversions. What do you see a lot of investors get wrong about the use of AI to automate their sales conversions?
I think there's a temptation to want to have AI go all the way through and qualify a client or a prospective seller and go deep, build rapport, all that kind of stuff, almost close. AI is not there. It's you talk long enough to an AI, a human sounding AI, and you're going to pick up that it's AI. So I don't think we ever want to get rid of the we're in the trust building business, and I don't think we ever want to give that up. If we ever give that up, we're really not running authentic businesses anymore. So let's let AI just get people to raise their hand, get people to set appointments, and then let's us humans do what we do best, which is build trust, build rapport, have a genuine conversation, and work out a solution. And so I think that's where some investors come in thinking it can kind of solve everything. I don't think we want it to do that. Like we're still in the business of having real conversations with people and solving real problems. So
Yeah, I feel like you can't train that kind of authenticity or that kind of rapport with the seller with AI.
yeah.
And I don't know, maybe somebody out there would actually say, yeah, we have that software that can do that. I just can't see that relatability. You have that emotional human connection that's just irreplaceable. And I feel like that's always going to be there. But like you said, you're going to be able to use AI for all the other operational systems that you can, you can have AI do that or a VA do something like that. And this is really interesting too, because I don't know if you were in that session with Francis when he was talking about the use of prompts and chat GPT and all that. I mean, there's so many people like that are using chat GPT for automating their process and their business or just using AI in general. It's always an interesting topic. And I feel like we're going to talk more about this as we keep going. And Brad, on the screen, I keep seeing the RiverX AI. What is that?
Yeah, so it's a platform we have that we offer to investors. It's real estate investor specific. You can actually use it in any industry, but we've focused on real estate investors because that's the industry we know the best. But yeah, we offer it to investors. We've got a lot of our friends are signing up and having the same success we're having, which is making our lead management team a lot more efficient.
So it's just like you talked about. It helps with follow-up, lead management, case management, really what it is.
Yeah, and one of the things we do as part of the onboard is integrate with your CRM because none of us want to be managing two different systems. We're already managing our CRM. We don't want to also manage this thing. So if you integrate it, then leads stay organized across both platforms. It's really just a plug into your CRM that just makes your follow-up systems more efficient. It's not a wholesale remake of your follow-up.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, for those that are watching, check it out. I mean, I think that's really cool. If you can have something like that plugged into your process, that could save you time. Brad's using it, right? So, and it's working. He's thriving. He's on the show. So we love that kind of stuff. Brad, awesome stuff. Really got the full sense of where you see things right now in terms of running a business and AI and where people really need to put their focus into the whole business model. I usually do these signature questions towards the end of my show. And for you, one of the questions I really want to ask is the market's up and down, and sometimes it ends up being in a down position. How do you protect yourself in a down market?
Yeah, I think what you do is de-risk a little bit in the deals that you're doing. So buy stuff deeper. Give yourself options to maybe wholesale if you need to. Come up with a lot of extra exit strategies. Don't go in with one extra strategy. So and be prepared for holding that property longer than you think. So I think those are some things that definitely help in this market right now. hopefully we're getting over the hump of that, and hopefully things start to pick up a little bit as interest rates drop. But I think it's still smart to be careful.
Yeah, just be careful with where you're putting your money and what to do with that, right? Now, you're in this game all the time with sellers, and I'm sure you've trained your team on sharpening all of their skills in their tool belt. How do you sharpen your negotiation skills with sellers?
So we train every week. We're part of a training platform that we're part of. But we role play a lot. We have a culture of role playing. We have a culture of just talking about sales. I think that's important to have a culture in your team of doing that. And we've been part of multiple sales platforms, but I think a lot of it's just talking all the time. It take your acquisition guys, have them do ride-alongs together, because they pick things up from each other that maybe they weren't thinking about. So I think that's helpful. Our lead management team also is they're trained like crazy as well. So they can often help train acquisition guys and vice versa. So everyone is trained in how to properly talk to a seller. And so a lot of it's just the culture that you build.
Yeah. And I don't know what happened in the law firm one day, but I remember I think somebody was out of the office and then it forced somebody else to step into that role. And at that time, there was like, hey, how do we do this? How do we do that? I made sure after that moment, everybody knew how to do that specific role. Everybody knows how to do a role, that same role in the law firm, so that if somebody steps out, somebody can go back in. It sounds very similar to how you talk to these sellers. Everybody knows how to do this, or how to have that kind of conversation. So that's always great. Now you have a bunch of people that can handle that moment when it happens on the phone. And Brad, I got to ask you, what's your best advice to investors out there in today's market? With all the different strategies, creative finance, different types of niche markets with land or commercial, or, what is your best advice after seeing this industry for the last 10 years?
I think I think there's a lot of strategies that someone can do, wholesale assignments, novations, fix and flip. But one thing that has been maybe what we did wrong up front that we've learned a lot from is like really focus on cash flow coming in, and don't get tempted by the fact that you have a deal that's supposed to produce some profit at some point, and almost like you're banking on that, and who knows what's going to happen 6 months from now. And so drive cash to come in, drive that process. We used to focus a lot on the front end, getting contracts signed, and then we just figured, oh, the money will come in when it comes in. And over time we learned how bad of a strategy that was. Focus on the back end too, focus on dispo, and have goals set around money in every single month. So that would have saved us a lot of pain over the years, but you learn as you go.
Hindsight's 2020. You learned a lot from back then.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, Brad, this has been awesome. I'm so happy we got to do this episode and really dive in these topics. For those that really want to get plugged in, how can people find you? How do they get plugged in with you? How do they get plugged in with RiverX AI? Where do they go?
Yeah, so you can go to riverxai.com. You can set up a demo if you're interested. I'm also on Facebook. That's probably the easiest way to find me. We're probably connected to a lot of the same friends if you're in the real estate investing industry. Or PrimeBuyersJax.com if you're looking to sell your house in Jacksonville. We work with a lot of sellers. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Brad, this has been great. I'm glad we got to do this and have you on the show. As I do at the end of my show, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. Any lasting impressions you want to leave the audience with, whether advice, any kind of influence that you can give to people on their businesses. Final words, final thoughts, Brad Bone.
I think, especially with the past few years with the market, the way the market's affected a lot of people, and with the market being the way it is, you win when you stay in the game and you keep plugging away and keep building. So if you're trying to build something and it seems like it's taking longer then it should stick with it. One thing, there's a quote I really like that I saw somewhere, but it basically said, it was talking about the guys who built YouTube, and it's like, building something new is really hard until it's not. There comes a point when it's not hard anymore because you've got over the hump, and that day will come. It just is a lot. It's really hard until it's not, and then it's not hard at all.
Just got to try it and push in, right? Just dig in. Well, Brad, awesome stuff. Thanks so much for coming on, and can't wait to connect again soon. See you at Family again soon, and keep crushing it in the Jacksonville market.
Thanks, Al.
All right, man. We will see you soon. You have a great one, Brad.
You too.
All right. Take care. All right, everybody. You heard it from Brad Bone. If you missed any of the episode, go back. Definitely check this out. A lot of information on building out your business, AI, and what people need to focus on when doing deals. Always so much information in these episodes. And for more content like tonight's episode, scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen. You'll get our link tree, everything on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You got it right there. And of course, we will see you next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.